Oh, so that's how you talk to snakes.
Yeah, yeah. That's you just let them know who's the boss. It's very much like that show a long time ago. Who's the boss? Yeah,
Right.
very much like that. Just let
Hold
'em
me
know who's
close,
boss.
young Tone and Dan's. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Oh, man, if only you knew what's the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Welcome back to Maximum News. Sorry, this is a day late. I was driving back to Canada from the United States around the time we normally record yesterday, so this is going up a day late, but we didn't want you guys to go without your weekly fix of important gaming news. I'm joined, as always, by Sybsidian. Syb, you doing good, dude? Did the ice storm hit you?
No, we've got a bit of a cold shock over here, but other than that, it's been actually a fairly dry winter, which is bad. Like when half your water comes to you, throughout the winter that you get all year long, and you don't get any. That's not always a good thing.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting to hear because like Calgary, Alberta, this around. I know you're in Alberta, and anyways, I know that it gets a lot of snow there, especially in the prairie, near the prairies. Yeah, that's not good. I'll tell you this though, we got a lot of moisture from the ice storm. I actually had to drive to the U.S. to my fiance's place so that I can finish work on a video and then drive back because the power that at the place I was staying in Canada was down, and I couldn't get my job done. So, but thankfully that's all done, and you guys aren't here to hear us talk about the weather. Sorry about that. I was just really curious as to whether or not it hit Syb. But gaming news. Got to do the usual thing. We got to start the show off by just me reviewing The Last of Us, and then throwing things over to Syb to see where he's at with that. Episode 7 dropped yesterday. We are recording this on Monday. What did I think of it? Okay. So, generally speaking, as I'm sure you guys all know, if you've been watching this podcast for the last couple of months or listening, I generally love all the episodes of The Last of Us, but I do like some more than others. Last night's episode, I would say, is probably my second least favorite or my least favorite. So that means I still liked it. I would say it's probably a 7 out of 10 with 8 and 9 out of 10 sprinkled throughout. The problem is, I think that where all the other episodes that I loved were on account of how well it adapted the material for television, amplifying stuff that we already knew was going to happen, but making it more and more emotionally potent than it was in the video game. For somebody like me who's already played the video game, I found that the stuff in this episode didn't flow as well. It hit all the emotional beats that it needed to with the characters of Ellie and Riley. Yeah, I think it's Riley. The episode covers the content from the DLC from the first game, and it did it well. But I just found that the stuff in between those emotional moments, it didn't flow as well. And that might be because Neil Druckmann, if I heard this correctly, he wrote this episode entirely by himself. He didn't do it with Craig Mazin, the showrunner, the guy who did Chernobyl. Yeah. I'll give Neil credit, though. He did a good job. It's just, it's not as good as the other episodes. I just wish that they could have done things to maybe add greater context to the relationship between Riley and Ellie. Maybe a little bit of investigation into the relationship, like Ellie's relationship with Fedra and Riley's relationship with the Fireflies, how both are ideologically opposed, but they're coming together. Kind of like a Star Wars Lost Stars type of situation, or a Romeo and Juliet for a more obvious example, something like that, but they didn't, and whatever. I'm not disappointed with it in any way. It just wasn't as good as the other ones. I'm still very much looking forward to episode 8 and 9. Can't wait to see how they handle David. That's going to be really interesting. But yeah, that's my review, and I'm looking forward to the next couple episodes. Syb, I know you watched the first episode. Have you gotten any further on it yet?
Yeah, so I'm like kind of more or less caught up to about a week ago. So it's all coming together well. It's looking great. And again, this makes me happy because between this and the success that other gaming stuff gets, it means that even if you even if you're not a fan of this, and I'm not a super fan of this series. Obviously, I have some major disagreements with certain people.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a good thing. When art is made well, regardless of who creates it, right? Like we talk a lot about not wanting censorship. And it's important to praise art when it's done well, even when it's done moderately well, right? Because nobody can be perfect all the time. You can't have, an artist make, every single thing be the Mona Lisa, right? Like you can't have that there. And art is always very important, and it is always more impactful in the eye of the beholder in various ways. So it's always good to continue to encourage it and to never shoot
lose
it down.
hope.
Even when you're not a fan of it in general, you could just be happy that other people find it happy, and that it's if it's not damaging society, then there's not really an issue to complain about it, because you look back at H.P. Lovecraft, and there's a lot of things to find distasteful about the person, but the art is still the art, and
yes,
yeah, and that's important. So yeah, so I've been pretty happy with it too, and I've also been happy seeing like where this can lead if people just take the minute to remember the source material, what makes the art good, and not do the whole Batman. What is it? Was it Batman Forever, the really terrible one? I always forget because I try and erase it from my mind as often as I can.
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin, aka the Ice Machine Skate Factory one. Oh,
speaking about art being in the eye of the beholder, that movie's brilliant. I don't care what anybody says. Allow me to break the ice. That's comedic genius.
Yeah.
Hey, what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. I'm sorry. I get really amused by stupid crap. Very quickly, before we move on to the next subject, I'm curious. What's your favorite episode?
Well, nothing yet. It's all like mid ranked for me, like on a personal level right now. So like everything so far is like okay, this is good, right? Like this is what we want to see coming out of game material stuff. I don't have a favorite episode because I don't actually like the character of Josh. Sorry, not Josh.
Joel. Yeah,
I don't actually like him as a generalized character. I don't hate him. He's not like a terrible person or a terrible written character in my mind. It's just not very interesting to me. That's why I'm trying not to be super negative, because I know certain people love these characters, but
it just doesn't appeal to you.
It just doesn't click with me. Like, but I'm very, very snooty when it comes to like favorite characters, air quotes.
Sure. Yeah, nothing wrong with that, dude. No problem. So, question is, guys, have you managed to watch episode 7 of HBO? I mean, the viewership keeps going up. At some point, like, everybody in the world's going to be watching this, kind of like they did with Game of Thrones. I wouldn't be surprised. But if you have, or if you happen to not, come back here when you have, and let us know what you thought about the episode in the comment section below. Do you agree with my sentiments? Do you think it was much better than I thought? Much worse? As long as it's constructive, we'd love to hear whatever the case may be in the comment section below. All right. Moving on to the next couple stories. So Sony did a state of play. As they usually do. They sort of just drop these things at random points. It's like, hey, be here in 2 or 3 days, and we're going to reveal some stuff. Kind of boring overall. Like, not anything really huge. The only two things that people really seem to be talking about from the state of play that happened this past week are the stuff from Resident Evil 4 and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I gotta say that quickly, otherwise we get demonetized.
Huge negative feedback on the whole Justice League game.
Yeah, we'll start with that and then go to RE4. So we'll start negative and then go positive. So, yeah, I was curious about this game, like a lot of people. Rocksteady, the developers behind this game, they're of course famous for doing the Arkham games, all of them except for Arkham Origins, which if I recall correctly, was done by a different studio. all wonderful games, although, people have their beef with Arkham Knight because of the Batmobile and stuff like that, from what I understand. But generally speaking, really, really great single-player games. The type of games that we would prefer to have more of in the modern day. But the last time they made a game, from what I understand, was 2015 when they made Arkham Knight. So it's been 7 years, or 8 years, I guess, because it's 2023. And we've been waiting for this Suicide Squad game that they've been working on ever since then. But we didn't really know much about it, aside from just the general premise. Brainiac has corrupted the Justice League, and now it's up to the Suicide Squad, led by Amanda Waller, to take him out. Well, we finally got some gameplay. Syb, this was not what I was expecting. Is it safe to say that the gameplay kind of looks like a combination between Crackdown and Anthem? Something like that? Because they all have guns. They're jumping all over the place.
Which is a little weird.
Yeah.
That all the superheroes have guns. And if you can find the clip from that brilliant superhero movie that Ben Stiller was in, where him and
Mystery Men?
The Mystery Men, yeah. Where the one character, the Hans character, which I know that's not him, that's a different movie, but same actor. He's like they're talking to like these like thugs, and they're like, "What's your superpower?" And they're like, "Guns." And they start laughing. They're like, "What? Guns aren't a superpower." I wish somebody had told them that when they were working on this game.
Right.
Oh, you want to play as the shark guy? Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. What kind of superpowers does he have? Guns.
Yeah, it's because when you play King
guns.
Yeah, when you play as King Shark, the first thing you want to do is pick up a Gatling gun.
Yeah. and again, it's like there's moments where that like would have like comedically been kind of funny,
sure,
right? Like it's the idea of the moment in Star Wars where Obi-Wan picks up the blaster and just shoots Grievous, right? Like that's hilarious. It's the funny what was it? It was some kind of like parody on Harry Potter at the end where like Snape pulls out a gun and just shoots Voldemort. It's like those are well done comedic bits with guns and characters that don't typically use them. That's the joke. That's the funny thing. I don't see anything interesting about playing as Harley Quinn, who's running around with the machine gun all day.
Right. Well, here's the problem though, right? I'm going to give them their due. For a second. So the premise of the Suicide Squad going up against the Justice League in principle is stupid. Because if you have Brainiac controlling the Flash, all the Flash has to do is run really quick. Like, the guy runs so quick, he can go back in time. But he can't run so quick that he can't go through their bodies and disintegrate them and kill them. Like, the Flash is in this trailer. It's like, just start dashing. Brainiac, what are you doing? Kill him. What? So you have to suspend your disbelief in regards to that. Yeah. And then also you have to find some way to power up certain members of the Justice League so that they can take on this greater threat. So I get why you have Harley Quinn flipping all over the place and using guns. But you have it. How do I explain this? You have to approach. So what people were expecting this game to be is to sort of be a game that presented all the traditional members of the Suicide Squad, showing off their personalities and using their traditional weapons, right? You got to construct the game around that. I understand wanting to beef them up to be able to take on a threat like that, but if the answer to that is to make it like a stereotypical looter shooter, then, well, you got the reaction that you got. Instead, what you need to do is you need to find a way to depower the Justice League and then have it so that the baseline powers of the Suicide Squad and write the story in a way so that it makes sense for them to go up against each other. Now they went in the other direction, and it seems like it's blown back on them. Like, did I know I was sort of all over the place, but did I ultimately get my point across?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like, and the whole depowering thing, or the whole adjusting of the power balance when you're doing games like this, like, you got to do it right, and you have to like there is a point where you do have to make it make sense, but then you also have to have the game fun, right? Like I don't think an actual fight between the Suicide Squad and any superhero, with the exception of maybe Batman being like super like all like evil and creepy, would actually be fun. Like the Flash, like that's a fight that's going to last for like what, 5 seconds,
Right?
like again, it's like in the concept of the gameplay, you do have to like funize the experience, right? Because there's a lot of boring stuff in things. The same thing like with like a good example of this is like Star Trek games. It's like Star Trek games are, in lore, it's like 99% surveying planets, which is not like, it is exciting for lore hounds, but it's not exciting from
For
like
gameplay.
from a gameplay perspective of like, we're flying here for 20 hours or 8 days and nothing happens except for some emotional like back and forth between some of the senior crew members. It's like, okay, and bearing that in mind, you have to then like realize that actually you have to add more combat into the game, which is kind of a ridiculous, it does get to a ridiculous level, and then you get a like XP and power levels, all that kind of stuff. You have to add those in to make the gameplay fun, but at the same time, it's like if you overstep the core logic, like way overstep it. And in this case, I think they did like really overstep it. I don't know how they could have made it better, but it doesn't look good. Like it looks like a mess. But the bigger problem is actually the microtransactions being stuck into the single player experience.
Like they didn't learn anything from Marvel's Avengers.
Well, they didn't learn anything from Hogwarts. Like Hogwarts looks like it's on track before the month is out to break $1 billion in sales.
Nuts.
That's what the info and trending data is pointing. It literally turned their stock around. Warner Brothers has gone up 65% in their stock portfolio since the release of the game.
Yep.
So it's like, this is a huge win for them. Now, obviously, it wasn't enough time to like take that and then like poured over that concept, to this game. But it is a damaging thing that you have this great single player game. No DLC, no microtransactions, makes you $1 billion. Starting on the next project, we'll talk about that in a bit. But in comparison to this game, where it's like, hey, you're going to have to pay microtransactions constantly. And oh yeah, your single player is always online. So actually, there's actually no modding that's going to be available for very little modding is going to be available for the game. And again, with Hogwarts, the modding, like, it's gone through the roof. There's almost 800 mods for the thing on just a single website, and there's more coming. It's like that should be their go-to model to emulate that, to create something that really sticks with the fans, and then give the fans the ability to like add their own stuff instead of having this like always online live service thing that really restricts the natural organic growth of the popularity of the game, because you're like, it's just too much. There's only so many gacha and battle pass games that people can afford.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, there's a handful of gamers that buy all the stuff all the time, but that is unfortunately a large percentage of the people who actually make money for these kinds of games.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, you're going to run out of those people. And is it better to sell, one thing for $100,000 or to sell a million things for $5, right? Like it's like at some point they've got to pick their focus here, and I think this one, I wish that they had the knowledge of how successful Hogwarts was going to be before they finalized the alpha build of this game, because in my humble opinion, it looks like one of those games that I'm going to get, like, I would get bored in like literally an hour.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's like the shoot the enemies, pick up the more powerful gun. Oh, by magic, all of the other enemies that you're currently fighting are that percentage more stronger now.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing really changed. And again, the worst example of this is Anthem, where the starting weapon was the most powerful weapon in the game, because everything scaled to your weapons. Everything in the whole world scaled to your weapons. So if you actually just kept your basic weapon, you'd still be doing like 30% of the HP of every target that you hit. And if you upgraded all your stuff, you go out into the world, you're still doing like 20% of the damage to the enemies on every hit, because that's the way they've scaled this live service thing. So your power doesn't actually matter, right? Like you're like, it's just a poor decision.
Okay, so everything that you just said there, it made me realize how to sum up the thoughts that I was sort of struggling to get out there before.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with this game is that it doesn't make use of the IP in a way that makes it stand out from everything else. Because right now, it just seems like Anthem with a Suicide Squad aesthetic. There's nothing about it that makes use of the things that are unique to the Suicide Squad. It just seems like everything else. Why should I give my time to this game compared to every other game that tries to use the same formula? Why not play Outriders? Look how that happened. Like, what happened to that? Whereas with what you were just saying with Hogwarts, even though there are familiar open world RPG tropes, what sets it apart from everything else is the way that it makes use of the IP to make it stand out in terms of gameplay, in terms of story, in terms of world building. With Suicide Squad, it seems to be the inverse.
Yeah.
And that's what's messing it up. And it's a shame because, man, Rocksteady, God love you guys. And hopefully, who knows? Maybe the whole game won't... The clip that we got won't be representative of the whole game. Maybe there's actually a pretty cool story there. Maybe there's some way they can make sense of a Brainiac getting control of Superman and somehow him not just tearing everything up. Yeah, but we'll see. It comes out in June, so just a few more months. But yeah, it took a serious hit to my enthusiasm. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just played an indie game that's not released yet, obviously, where portions of the game you play as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And you're trying to put the hero into a situation where they lose. And it's very strategic, very like long planning. You're like slowly etching away their support structures, and you're making it so that in the battle, that's when you win the outcome. I think something like that probably would have been a way better concept of this, and then relying way more in like story. And I feel so bad about this because this is the last time the voice actor who did Batman,
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, this is Kevin's last. This is his riding off into the sunset thing, / memorial for what he did for comic fans with his entire career. And to have it just put into this cheap microtransaction pushing, always online live service thing, so that that in 3 years when this game isn't making money anymore, they're going to, air quotes, shut it down, and then you're not going to be even able to play the single player game.
Yeah. That's
just so bad. Again, it's like a slap in the face, and that's pretty disgusting. Ugh, it's so annoying.
Well, at least we still have all the Arkham games to go back and play. Those games are
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum, the oldest one. If you go back and play that game now, that game's still dope.
So good.
It's so damn good.
So good.
Well, yeah, it won't be bad because of him. All right, let's move on to more positive news. The other thing,
on the state of play, I thought the new Street Fighter game looks interesting. You get a really interesting Cammy trailer there. Baldur's Gate 3 launching on August 31st looks huge, and then the Resident Evil remake looks good, but I will hold back my 100% on this because of the immense craziness that's been around the Resident Evil remakes. I think they're good, but it's still a little frustrating that they show stuff off way too soon, in my humble opinion. I don't just way too soon, where it's like, oh yeah, look at how amazing that, and then they cut 30% of the game. It's like,
really, they did that?
Oh yeah, for the one of the other remakes, the whole sections of the game from the remake weren't in it because they couldn't fit in the the clock tower, a bunch of other stuff because they just ran out of time, right?
Yeah, you're talking about Resident Evil 3, right?
Yeah. So this remake, it looks great. The trailer looked awesome, but they've done this before, and I would highly encourage everybody, just please don't pre-order. Wait till the game is out and then judge it based off of that. If they cut 30% of the content from the original title, maybe they don't deserve 100% of their asking price for the new title. I'm just saying, maybe they should give you a 30% sale off of the standard price of a game because they only managed to put in the 70% of the content. Kind of makes sense to me. So
well, of course, I agree with the whole pre-order thing, and I agree with your sentiments regarding Resident Evil 3 Remake. I do think this is a bit of a different situation, though, because the teams behind RE2 and RE3 Remake, those games released within 1 year of each other. RE3 just seemed to be capitalizing on the incredibleness that was RE2 Remake, and they didn't give it the attention that it deserved, which, it was such a missed opportunity because RE3, the original one, was sort of a missed opportunity. It should have been, people love that game, but even people who love it recognize that it was an incomplete game. But anyways, RE4, they have spent the last 3 years on it. They did go and they did have different creative visions for it. And I understand why there was some intensity behind the scenes regarding this game because RE4, as far as I'm concerned, is about as close to a perfect game as you can get. Maybe not in terms of story or other individual components like that, but just in terms of a pure gameplay experience. The fact that it holds up as well as it does 17 years later is something you can't say about most games ever produced back then or even further back then. So it's how do you improve upon that? Well, it seemed like they figured it out. It's by taking the action of RE4 and combining it with the horror of the previous 3 games that came out back in the PS1 era. And they seem to have done that extremely, extremely well. They seem to have found the balance as well as improving on things that maybe weren't as ideal. So it seems like Ashley is no longer going to be annoying. It seems like she's actually going to be an interesting character to be around. Luis,
I hope they rebuilt her combat ability for centered that around the actual Last of Us 1, because she's actually useful as a character in that game.
Yes, throwing bricks.
This one, I remember everybody was like, all right, so you put her in a suit of armor and you put her in a garbage can and then you go and you clear everything. You kill every single zombie in the entire world and then you come back and you fish her out of the dumpster and she's okay, and then it'll work.
Why did you just start speaking like the merchant? For a second.
Just cuss.
That was good, though. But yeah, you do have a point. I do hope that she does have a gameplay role, but even if she doesn't, at least she won't be grating against your temperament like the way that the original Ashley was. Luis, he seems to have more of an expanded role. I hope that the same is true for Ada. I mean, she probably will, but we still have to see from the trailers. And I gotta still hear my Mr. Kennedy, but I'm sure that's probably something they're going to be holding back on until the full release. I will say, though, if they don't have the bingo line, this game is an instant 0 out of 10. I will recommend nobody else buy it. That's got to be in there. Otherwise, it's the biggest missed opportunity in gaming. But no, seriously, the game overall looks to be wonderful. I can't really pick out anything from the trailers that I don't like. It seems to be incredibly faithful, but incredibly new, the perfect balance. Can't wait until the 25th. And hopefully it doesn't, there's nothing going on behind the scenes where it will lead to something like the RE3 remake. But thankfully I don't really have any reason to believe that. So, yeah, that's good news. Let's move on to, speaking of showcases. You like that? Okay. Sai, this is all you, man. What is the news that came out today in regards to Starfield?
So nothing concrete. That's the thing. We have a post from Bethesda saying, "Hey, April 21st looks like it's going to be a cool thing," and then that's literally it. That's literally it. We have a ton of insiders who are, again, big podcast type people who are very connected in the industry going, "It's coming. It's not delayed." The rumors 6 months ago where they were working on just patches, like they had finished the game, they got it to release level, but they decided that there were too many bugs in the game and they wanted to crush all the bugs, so they decided to spend the next couple of, like the next 6 to 10 months, if it's to be believed, doing nothing but crushing bugs, basically doing what they would normally do in the first year of release, because is it a bug? Is it a bug or is it a feature? Ha ha ha. That's no longer a funny joke to most people. So they've decided to just triple down on this.
Yeah.
These are the things that all these connected people in the industry are saying, are going, you do not want to sleep on this. This is going to be amazing. I hope that's true. I really do. I believe that it's for the most part true, because I think that you'd have to be so incredibly stupid to release an absolute buggy mess, following
76.
Yeah, following 76, following all the problems, following the outcry. You would just be feeding gasoline to people who are trying to burn you down, right? Like it would just be insane for them to try. And that's where I think that they took it to heart. They said, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We're going to fix this. We're going to make sure that this is not a thing anymore. This is going to be a solution that we're putting forward here and now. Again, nothing new, nothing concrete, but looks like we've got a couple of interesting dates. One is next week. And one is, like I said, April 21st.
Well,
so
yeah, what would April 21st be? We know when Redfall's coming out, right? That's May.
Yeah.
So what would that have to do with Redfall? Unless maybe they were dropping a demo or something, but
I don't know. But this also goes on the heels of them releasing Hi-Fi Rush just literally out of the blue.
Yeah.
And it being a pretty phenomenal game, one of the most successful ones that studio ever made, and it makes a lot of sense. It really does. It makes a lot of sense for them to really focus in on that kind of stuff and try and make that work in the way that the studios want to. They don't want to make bad games. They want to make good games. They don't want to have poor sales. They want to have good sales that keep on going forever. This is what the people behind the studio want. And I think that they're getting that right now, because again, Microsoft is bleeding a little bit in the range of actually having content out for their fancy new console. So this makes sense that it's still going to be this year. I think there's been nothing said, but I honestly think that if they promised before the end of Q2, that's not a long ways away from now. That's
4 months.
Just a couple of months.
Yeah.
They've got to get this thing out. If they had some kind of big showcase on the 21st, some kind of big showcase, and then they release it the following month, or maybe even in April, it's like that would make sense to me. I
Yeah.
personally don't want them to release like time wise. I'm really busy during the summer. I really was hoping that they would release in the fall or in the early winter so that I could actually play the thing. So I'm not happy about this,
Right.
but it makes sense that this is going to be going this way. So that's the rumor mill. It's going nuts. If you're interested in this game, keep your ear to the ground because it's going to be an insane push over the next couple of weeks. And I think we're going to see, in the next 2 months, we're going to have a bunch of stuff just dumped on us. And I am really looking forward to seeing how they've managed to pull this off, because the tech that they were using, I was really excited about it 4 years ago. And I really think they're really starting to push that. So
before we move on, I'm just curious, because you have your ear closer to the ground than basically anybody else does that I know. What would you say would be the safest bet right now regarding Starfield? When do you think the showcase will be, and when do you think it will release? If you were to make a bet.
So right now, people like Andy Platonic and a bunch of other sources in the industry are saying they are hearing an imminent info drop.
Yeah.
Imminent showcase. There's some people who are saying, I am being told that this game is going to be out before Redfall. I hear that a lot. I don't believe it because there's not enough evidence to kind of back that up, other than the circumstantial, concept stuff that, Todd Howard has always said that he wants to announce a game, show it off, and then that night release it. They did that with Hi-Fi Rush. What are they like?
Yeah.
Is that possible? And theoretically, it's possible, but this is a huge thing. And I've said a couple times, they need to introduce the world to us. They need to have that big Skyrim style trailer that I think what is it at? It's 80 million views now. It's that trailer. Those trailers in the early days of that game were huge,
mm-hmm.
and that drove so much hype. And if they can get close to that with another campaign like that, I would think that is more valuable than just releasing it that day. But then again, I don't know. This is one of these things where it's we were told originally by some people very close to the thing that it was going to be Starfield and Redfall. That was the plan. And the last thing they keep saying is nothing's changed. So it's okay. So yeah, don't believe any of this stuff though, because this is such a bizarre scenario in that they have been so quiet on this. They had a bunch of those videos come out talking about the theories, the stuff that, Todd went on to the Lex Friedman podcast. He's been more active speaking to, hardcore gaming people and stuff like that. But again, we don't have anything concrete in our hands, so we can't guarantee anything. And I can't even talk about the evidence behind the rumors, because right now I'm getting stuff that is contradictory. We're hearing one thing, we're seeing something else, and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
but the safe bet, I would, based on everything they just said there, it seems like it will still come out in Q2.
I really think so. I suspect strongly that it's going to come out Q2 because Microsoft needs the win.
Yeah, they do.
And they can't, it's gonna hurt them if they gotta wait a full, another full year.
No, that won't happen.
Not from today, but from their initial release, right? So last year, in November, waiting until November again.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah,
that would be that would be really brutal for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. We'll see. But the big thing to kind of keep your eye on, and I'll shift to this story right now because it's actually more connected that way. But there's going to be I mentioned this earlier. There's going to be a big showcase next week. In fact, at this time next week, we're going to already have known what's coming out and what this is all about. And this is the Paradox Interactive Announcement Showcase presented by Xbox, of all things. Like, wow, what?
What is that? So what does that mean? Because like you told me about this, and I know some of the games at Paradox because I see people on my friends list on Discord playing games like Cities Skyline all the time, but I don't know anything about them. Why is it huge for them to be doing it with Xbox?
It's just a little weird that they're teaming up with Xbox directly because most of these games are played on Steam. Very few of them are actually played on the console. Like, I don't think, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think Starfield is. No, sorry, not Starfield. Stellaris. I don't think Stellaris is actually on the consoles. I could be wrong about that though. Yeah, but it's like so. Paradox is doing a showcase with Xbox Studio. This is Iceflake Studios, Paradox Arc, Paradox, the primary Paradox studio. Then there's like Triumph Studios, and then two other Paradox subsidiaries that I can't remember the names off the top of my head. But this is. Oh yeah, and Colossal Order too. So it's like this is 7 big studios doing a whole bunch of announcements and 3 game announcements, which is kind of huge. Now Paradox again, these are the guys who were supposed to be bringing us that whole vampire game, which it got shelved and then pushed back. Or sorry, it got delayed, then basically canceled and then shelved apparently, and we're still waiting on news of it. Masquerade 2. So we're still waiting for Vampire the Masquerade 2, which is so crazy. And then we've got, Stellaris is like just turning up the charts. Like it's becoming one of the biggest strategy 4X games in history. It's really starting to give games like Civilization a run for their money, and it's a very, very fascinating game. The fact that you can play as a brain slug species that is going around the galaxy just taking things over.
Mm-hmm.
That's hilarious.
That is hilarious.
You want to play as some very attractive looking blue aliens who are also taking over the world through trade and other things. You can do that. You want to mod this up to play with as Warhammer versus like as literal like the Empire of Man versus like the Empire from Star Trek, and then also the Federation. You can there's some crazy mods for this game, and it's got it's huge and it's great and it's got so much to it. And so they have their latest free expansion is coming out I think in just a few days here. So that's probably going to coincide with this big announcement. And then they've got a bunch of other projects like that they've been working on. Like I mentioned, they got the Vampire the Masquerade. I don't know if anything's coming out of that. We don't know where that's sitting at. We don't know what's going on with that, but there's that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. And then the fact that they're doing this in cahoots with Xbox, very interesting. Very, very interesting.
So when did you say the showcase is?
It is 1 week from today minus a couple of hours. So today, when I say today, I say Monday, not Tuesday when most people are listening to this. So it's going to be in 6 days from the time that most people are listening to this. Right. And it's going to be at, so it is at 12 p.m. ET or 9 a.m. PT on March the 6th. So literally this time next week, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be, it's going to be our podcast next week will probably be going live just as we are actually going live covering this game showcase and
Triple Sleep.
Yeah, we're going to be covering it for sure. Okay. So yeah, very interesting. We'll see how this ties in with anything else that Xbox is going to talk about, or maybe there was this theory rolling around. It's like, it's kind of odd that they're doing this, Xbox thing, with Paradox. Paradox isn't that big, and they're doing it with Xbox. And somebody was like, what if they're going to have a second showcase that's either right before or after it for Xbox? And they just haven't announced it yet. It's like, that's a theory.
I don't know.
It's a theory.
It's a theory. It's a theory, Cotton. See how it plays
when it comes to Starfield, I am at this moment, I'm like, yeah, sure, that could be. I'm not believing everything, but like, I'm like, yeah, that could very well be. Like if I were to suddenly get a visit from myself from the future in 1 week going, we're playing Starfield, I would not be surprised. If I show up and say, 3 weeks from now we're playing Starfield, not surprised. A month, 2 months, 3 months, again, not surprised. Because at this point it's like, whatever. And even if somebody shows up and says, hey, yeah, you're not going to be playing Starfield until Christmas 2023. Again, not going to be surprised. Because at this point, everything is just like, all right, it's happening.
Yeah, it's
so weird.
Only a company like Bethesda would manage something like to drive gamers this crazy. And low-key, I probably will end up that way when it comes time for Elder Scrolls 6 to come out in, 2042. But anyways, and then finally, what else do we have to say about Hogwarts?
So I also have this. I did manage to get something from them about the next Elder Scrolls game.
Oh,
ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear this first here.
It takes place in Tamriel.
we are going to be playing the next Elder Scrolls game before 2030.
Well, that's good. At least it's not 12 years after 2030, like I just said.
Because I asked the one I said, like, you're not talking like, we're not talking like 2030 release date. No. It'll be before that. So It's like, okay, good. It better be. Yeah. I don't want to wait 7 more years for this stupid. Yeah. So we'll see. And then I did mention it earlier with the Hogwarts stuff.
Killing it.
It is killing it. They have got almost $1 billion worth of sales. This has absolutely turned around. And again, just confirmation on just 1 or 2 quick topics. The sales tickets for like the Universal Studio thing where they have the Harry Potter world,
the theme park,
the theme park. Ticket sales have just gone through the roof there, and that's amazing. Merch has gone through the roof for like all things, Potterverse or whatever, Wizarding World, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And there is more TV show talk, more new movie talk. There's talk now about a whole bunch of stuff because they just realized that.
Oh crap! IP is king in this world. Maybe we should make use of the Harry Potter license just for
not everybody was interested in the Fantastic Beasts thing. It's a weird time to kind of cover, and the characters just never really hit it off. But I think what they've realized is that they can run with this, and this is going to work.
The world of Harry Potter, the lore of that universe is so ripe for storytelling. It's such a rich sandbox that has yet to be exploited, and Hogwarts Legacy seems to have demonstrated that fact. Now it's just a matter of trying to figure out, okay, what time period do we set this in? Do we go back like 100 years like Hogwarts Legacy is? Do we set in the contemporary time? Is Harry Potter involved at all? It's just a matter of trying to figure that out. Whatever the case may be, I am curious. I do love the Harry Potter license. I grew up with the books, read all the books, watched all the movies, and hopefully it's treated with the respect that it deserves. Come on, HBO. All right. I still need to get back to playing Legacy, man. I just have no time. But that does it for this episode of Maximum News, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us again. Again, sorry that it's a day late. It's just the nature of things. But we're glad that you could join us. If you have any thoughts or opinions on any of the things that we talked about, we'd love to hear about them in the comment section below. Make sure you like this video, because when you do that, it not only helps out this episode, but it helps out the channel as a whole and the Triple S League brand. Speaking of which, I want to thank Syb, as always, from the Triple S League. Do you want to tell people about the main channel real quick before we close out?
Yeah, check out the Triple S League on YouTube. We've got a whole bunch of guides for Harry Potter. We've got some funny, hilarious, knee-slapping shorts. Live shorts that we filmed.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. There are actually a couple up right now, like the shorts on the Triple S League channel. There's a joke at the end of the second one that just had me howling. You should check it out.
And we are going to be doing more of this stuff. We're going to be doing we're going to start to try and do shorts for every major game that we cover. We were sitting down today spitballing ideas for Starfield. So we got that. We've got Fallout stuff. We got a whole bunch of stuff that we could start doing. There's a whole bunch of things that we've always wanted to do with Elder Scrolls and others. So if you like shorts, comedy, like shorts, like live action film stuff, if you love that stuff on TikTok, check this out, because you're probably going to like it there too.
And you won't have your data,
stolen by a giant evil government.
Exactly. Yes, and or less evil. Certainly less.
Slightly less evil than the norm. Yeah.
Right. And you guys could just find me at my main channel, just at Max Derrat. I'll put a link to that and the Triple S League main channel in the description box below. Thanks, guys, and until we do this again next week, I want to remind you, as always and as per usual, stay yellow.
Goodbye.